Okay, so the last one we had a graph. This one we just have a max and a min, and so it might be easier if we actually graph it. This looks a lot uglier than it is, so just bear with us. I'm going to put this as 3 pi over 8 and 9 pi over 8. This is 1, this is negative 5. And so halfway in between that, it hits the middle line. So halfway in between 3 pi 8 and 9 pi 8 is 6 pi 8. So that's why I know it hits the middle line there. And so notice the pattern. 3, 3, 3. And so it hits the middle again after this. And then this will be at negative 3 pi over 8. The biggest thing is, okay, so let's deal with the plus k. The average y. So negative 5 plus 1 divided by 2 is negative 2. And the amplitude then, to get from negative 2 down to negative 5, the amplitude is 3. And so in this sense it's very similar to the last one. We just went down 2 instead of up 2. The period is going to be the biggest problem. So the period, we went from 3 pi over 8 being the valley to 9 pi over 8 being the peak, and that's a difference. 9 pi over 8 minus 3 pi over 8 is 6 pi over 8, which is 3 pi over 4. That's a half period. Because that's peak to valley. And so the period is actually double that, 2 times 3 pi over 4, which is going to be 3 pi over 2. 6 pi over 4, which reduces to 3 pi over 2. So what we're going to want to do is take our b, 2 pi divided by our period. 2 pi divided by 3 pi over 2, which is 2 over 3 pi. Pi's cross out, you get 4/3. And so now we need to decide, do we have a sine, a cosine? You can notice that we continued the pattern back to 0. 9, 6, 3, 0, and so it's a negative sine function. Negative 3 is our amplitude, sine of 4/3. X, and actually we don't need to shift it left or right. 4/3 x minus 2, because that was our k value. Centered around negative 2, up and down 3. Another option would be y equals 3 cosine of 4/3, and shift it to the left or to the right. Since we were given this 1 max, why not shift it to the right? 9 pi over 8, and then minus 2. That's also another option. Okay. Find the angle measurements in degrees and radians. What's the arc sine? The inverse sine of -1. This is the same notation as this. We're looking for a y value. Where's the y value? -1. Only in one spot when it goes straight down. That's -90 and half of pi, so -pi over 2. Remember that it's only defined between negative 90 and 90. And so that's why we say negative 90 instead of 270, or negative pi over 2 instead of 3 pi over 2. Inverse cosine of 0. Where's the cosine value? 0. Well, when you go straight down and when you go straight up, the x value is 0, but we only want 0 to 180. So we say 90 degrees, or pi over 2. Where's tangent, the y over the x, negative 1? Inverse tangent to negative 1. Remember, this is the combination of y's and x's. You can either have, and we'll come back to this, but this one's going to be the root 2 over 2 divided by root 2 over 2. That gives us negative 1. And so I want positive divided by negative, or I want negative divided by positive. So I'm going to want this one, because it's negative 90 to 90, so negative 45 degrees, and negative pi over 4. Inverse sine of negative 1/2. What I'm looking for is the y value, because it's sine, it's the y value, where it's negative. And so negative 1/2 recognizes the short side of your 30, 60, 90. And so we want our y to be negative 1/2, like that. And it's negative 1/2 over here as well. But I only want this one. So it's going to be negative 30 degrees and negative pi over 6, because 180 divided by 6 is 30. Hopefully all those radians are sticking with you. Arctangent, inverse tangent, when do we get 1 over root 3? So I remember it's either 1/2 divided by root 3 over 2, or it's root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2 as my y over my x. It's not this one, and so it's this one. I want my y to be my 1/2 and my x to be my root 3 over 2. There's also one over here, but I'm only interested in that. And so this is the 30 degrees and also pi over 6. We just did those other ones. And cosine, arc cosine of negative root 3 over 2. That's where we're looking for the x value. We want the x value to be the big side, and we want it to be negative. And so we're looking at the x value over here and over here. And so because arc cosine's only defined between 0 and 180, we get the 150, 30 degrees less, because we recognize the x was the long side of the 30, 60, 90, or over 6, it's 5 pi over 6. So because those were all functions, arc cosines, inverse sines, all the inverse functions, we only had one answer. Now, we do have two answers down because we asked for degrees and radians. Now on the other ones, we're going to maybe have two answers. So, tangent is root 3. That's very similar to this one we did up here, but I'm going to take this other one. It's going to be y over x of root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. And so I want this one. And I also want this one, because this is a positive divided by positive, and this is a negative divided by negative. So I want the 60 degrees, and I want 180 plus 60, because we're relative to the x-axis like that. And so that's 240 degrees. You know which unit to give it in, because it's asking for all the angles between 0 and 360. So again, inverse tangent would only have given us this one. Reflection gives us the other. This one you need a calculator. Inverse cosine of 0.2 gives us, hit the second and then the cosine, make sure you are in degree mode here. It gives us 78. So I'm going to draw this 78 like this. Where else is the cosine positive? It's positive here because it's the x value. And so we're going to do this, and so I'm going to do 360 minus 78.5. Now we're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be 0 to 2 pi, and so we're going to be using our going to be given our answers in radians. So inverse tangent of 0.6, inverse tangent of 0.6, radian mode. So radians inverse tangent of 0.6, 0.54. That's our first answer. Inverse tangent only gives answers between negative 90 and 90, and so we know 0.54 is, well, actually it's going to be much smaller than that. It doesn't really matter where you draw it, but 0.6 is lower than 1, and so that's why I'm drawing it less than a 45. Where else is it 0.54? Well, this is 0.54 that way, and tangent goes across because you have y divided by x. Y divided by x. And so the tangent with the same 0.6 is going to be over here. And so we're going to do, instead of related to 180, we're going to do pi plus 0.54. So we're going to get 3.68. So there's our second one, finding all the angles in between 0 and 2 pi. Sine, inverse sine of negative 0.8. Okay, so this is an angle, however it's in the negative, wrong range. But that's what the calculator gave us. And so we're going to add 2 pi to that, negative 0.93 plus 2 pi. In other words, we're going to do, or let's do this, 0.93 2 pi minus 0.93. Has the same effect. 5.35, and that's one of them. And then where else is sine negative? Well, sine is the y value, and so sine is negative when we go down like this. And so I'm going to do pi plus 0.93 because we're looking at the negative y values. So pi plus 0.93, 4.07. And that's what we're looking at. Good luck studying for your test. Hope this helped out.